Hello again from Fired Up. First, please hit the like button, share this page with your friends, and leave a comment. This will really help our ratings on the internet. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense issues. Fired Up is on my website, firedupwithbobirwin.com, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, YouTube, and numerous other media. If your local internet provider doesn't carry Fired Up, ask them to do that. A new show is posted every Thursday around 5 p.m. Pacific time. The audio is rebroadcast for our radio listeners on Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. You can check out KELY1230.com for a station in your part of Nevada. If you have questions or comments, send an email to me at bob@firedupmail.com or leave a message in my office recorder, which is 702-257-1060. If you would like a call back, please leave your number. Again, that number to my recorder is 702-257-1060. There are hundreds of defensive uses of firearms each week in the United States, rarely truthfully covered by news media. I always select a few for my listeners' information. Most are good shootings, some not so good, but all are educational for those of you that keep a defensive firearm at home or carry one out in public. Individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law, so the opinions given here may not apply in the area where you live. Advice from a local gun knowledgeable defense attorney is always recommended. I usually paraphrase stories for clarity by translating from police jargon, lawyer speak, and regional accents into American English, and the incidents are as reported with the names of the participants deleted. The names of the cops and the lawyers and the media are generally used. As keeping up with our normal routine here, we're going to talk a little politics first because that is such a big issue right now. The New York Post reported this week, Biden's newest gun ban has been announced. That is another executive order to ban semi-automatic firearms and standard capacity magazines. President Biden announced several new gun control measures after a recent pair of high-profile mass shootings. But instead of the Second Amendment doesn't grant, and he said the Second Amendment does not grant an absolute right to own guns. That made a lot of headlines. Biden presented the executive actions in the Rose Garden, joined by Attorney General Garland and Vice President Kamala Harris. Biden commented that no amendment to the Constitution is absolute, pointing to the famous Supreme Court ruling that you can't yell fire in a crowded theater as part of the First Amendment's free speech clause. You can yell fire in a crowded movie theater and call it freedom of speech. From the very beginning, you couldn't own a weapon that you wanted to own. From the very beginning that the Second Amendment existed, certain people weren't allowed to have weapons. This is all Biden talking here. So the idea is just bizarre to suggest that some weapons are contrary to the Constitution. Gun violence in this country is an epidemic. Let me say that again. I'm quoting President Biden. Gun violence in this country is an epidemic. It's an international embarrassment. The most widely anticipated measure instructs the Justice Department to issue a proposed regulation within 30 days to undermine the at-home manufacture of so-called ghost guns, which can be made with equipment that drills and folds metal parts. Activists who oppose gun control have promoted the technology. Anyone from a criminal to a terrorist can buy this kit and in as little as 30 minutes put together a weapon. I want to see these kits treated as firearms. Another order of the Justice Department is to issue a regulation within 30 days that would make clear when a device marketed as a stabilizing brace effectively turns a pistol into a short-barreled rifle, which is subject to requirements of the National Firearms Act. That's where you got to pay $200 and get a background check and so forth. White House said, in a fact sheet, the alleged shooter in the Boulder tragedy last month appears to have used a pistol with an arm brace, which can make a firearm more stable and accurate while still being concealable. However, the alleged gunman passed a firearm background check before purchasing his weapon, and it's unclear if the new policy would have any meaningful alteration to this tragedy. If he passed the background check, it wouldn't have meaning to the tragedy. Another Biden rule orders the Justice Department to produce model legislation on red flag laws that states would have the option of adopting. The president said he also wants a national red flag law. The red flag law allows family members or law enforcement to petition for a court order temporarily barring people in crisis from assessing firearms if they present a danger to themselves or others. Gun control gained political momentum after the massacre of 10 people in Boulder, Colorado, a grocery store last month, and the murder of 8 Atlanta area massage parlors. The death of 8 masseuses at the massage parlor. Biden said, "You didn't hear it, but between those two incidents, less than 1 week apart, there were more than 850 additional shootings that took the lives of more than 250 people and left 500 injured. This is an economic crisis, for God's sake, and it has to stop." Now quoting Bob Irwin. Comments, "You may certainly yell fire in a crowded theater if there is an actual fire in a crowded theater. Citizens may also build firearms if they choose to without violating federal law. State and some local laws have their own regulations which may govern those actions. We certainly do not need federal regulation here. That already exists." Another local law disaster is coming up. One of my favorite websites, nevadacarry.org, reported 5/19/2021, the casino gun ban that was given a last-minute revival in the form of SB 452, Senate Bill 452. Emergency procedures were abused to retrieve this from the dead when it was already stripped from the original bill, AB 286. This bill would ban firearms on property of any posted casinos, which means the parking lot, garages, drop-off, pickup areas, etc. Legally, this means if you're going to a casino, you are disarmed the entire trip because you can't leave your gun in the car. In concealed carry, they have to warn you before calling the police. The casinos are required to say, you can't have the gun in here, you need to take it out or give it to us or whatever. Open carry, they don't have to warn you when calling the police. That makes no sense. Someone illegally and is probably a bad guy is far more of a risk than someone who is open carrying, because open carriers have nothing to hide. This bill is totally unnecessary because leave when warned or else be trespassed is already Nevada law. Most people conceal carry, so the open carry portion as well is unnecessary. The bill would also disproportionately affect minorities who would likely be targeted by police and security. No one deserves to be disarmed because they're on the strip. By disarming public criminals, we know that essentially the entire strip in downtown will become a gun-free zone. Casinos can already trespass persons who refuse to leave or disarm under existing law. Casino bans would turn the strip downtown, Las Vegas and Reno into gun-free zones, as essentially anyone visiting a casino or even a parking lot at one couldn't legally carry a gun. Nevada law is already sufficient to deal with this matter. It does not need to be passed in our legislature. It appears that it is about to. They resurrected this bill and added it to something else. The Attorney General is putting it through as we speak in the last week of our legislature. Story number 3. City News Service, a regional news service covering Southern California, which was founded in 1928, and reports May 17, 2021, in Cathedral City, California, a home intruder was shot by a resident. The shooting occurred about 6:15 Sunday evening in the 38,200 block of Chuparosa Lane, according to the Cathedral City Police Sergeant Albert Ruiz. Patrol officers responded to a house following a 911 call, and reportedly a male intruder had entered the home and threatened the residents. The suspect, whose name was not released, allegedly made threats against their lives, causing the 85-year-old homeowner to grab his gun and shoot the suspect once in the upper body. Police say the homeowners, who were not hurt, did not know the man. First responders transported him to Desert Regional Medical Center in Palm Springs, where he was listed in stable condition in the intensive care unit. The suspect, who was allegedly shot by the 85-year-old homeowner, remained in the hospital as of this report. Comments here, score 1 for self-sufficient senior citizen. Certainly a valid shooting other than in New York City or San Francisco and a few other Democrat-controlled areas. It is still recommended that the elderly shooter here get a local gun knowledgeable defense attorney involved and only speak through him or her. We're going to break for a moment for a little chat about my latest book, which is available on the internet. I'll be back in 2 minutes. My latest book, Self-Defense with Firearms, Use of Force in Nevada, is now available on Amazon Kindle for $4.95. You can download it now. It contains examples of dozens of shootings and pointing a firearm cases that I personally experienced in my 24 years in law enforcement, or where I testified in court or deposition as a firearm and use of force expert. The book is about the use of firearms in defense of yourself and others in my home state of Nevada. I have appeared as an expert witness in Nevada courts dozens of times, and that experience has shown me the necessity of putting pen to paper once again. Nevada state law as printed can be misleading to those of you who read it, as it is written in legal jargon, what I usually call lawyer speak. These statutes are also bent or even broken by the courts in their everyday decisions that we generally call case law. Those are rulings that say this or that statute does not apply in a particular incident and similar cases. That causes the law you are depending on when you make a decision to use your firearm only partially or not apply at all to your actions. Relevant Nevada statute numbers are included here and there, so readers may look up current wording on the Nevada State website. Teaching firearms in 28 law enforcement academies, including cadets from 26 different Nevada agencies, personally instructing over 30,000 concealed firearm permit students and 20,000 private security officers, I've discovered a lot of commonalities in deadly force incidents. Less than 100 pages, this book offers advice that can save lives and costs of expensive defense lawyers to reduce your losses in the inevitable civil lawsuits that follow these incidents. Get a copy, learn how to avoid, prepare for, and react to life-threatening situations. Again, this book is available on Amazon Kindle for less than $5. You can actually read the whole thing in 2 hours or so. Hopefully, if you do this, it will save you some serious problems should you ever find yourself with an intruder or somebody that you need to point your gun at, and his attorneys don't think you should have pointed the gun, and away you go when they go after your house in a civil lawsuit, or nowadays, even criminal charges. Get one. It will help. Now, we're going to go to story number 4. NBC Chicago reported May 18, 2021 in Bolingbrook, Illinois. Bolingbrook, wow. Local police said that there were a few minutes before midnight on Monday, officers were called to the 600 block of Cambridge Way on a report of a person shot. Authorities said the man reported he was inside his home when he heard a noise outside and saw the dome light lit on his vehicle. He then grabbed a handgun and went outside to investigate, saying it appeared to be multiple people were breaking into his car. One of the suspects opened fire on the man, who then returned fire. The suspects then fled the area. Upon arrival, officers found the intended victim, who was taken to an area hospital in stable condition, last reported in stable condition. More than a dozen evidence markers littered the ground outside the home early Tuesday. This would be dark 30, early Tuesday. Some shell casings near some shell casings, while the car in the driveway of the home was visibly had its back windshield shot out. It is not immediately clear if any of the suspects were hit, and police did not release further information on the incident, including the number or description of the suspects. No one is in custody in connection with the incident, according to police, who continue to investigate. Anyone with information on the shooting is asked to contact the Bolingbrook Police Department Investigations. You can reach them at 630-226-8610 or Crime Stoppers at the same area code, 630-378-4772. Tips can remain anonymous. Comments here, large trouble here. This appears to be a property crime rather than a threat to a human life. Deadly force is rarely, if ever, justified to protect property like your favorite automobile. With the damage already done by the shooter's statements to investigators, any defense of the shooting as reasonable is impossible. File this away as an example of what not to do and get some firearm liability insurance. The advice I give: to talk to an attorney first. This is a good example. Anyway, we're going to take a short break here for a commercial word, and I'll be right back. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. This last story is unbelievable. Anyway, this is from KSAT, a news journalist named Cody King, reported May 15, 2021 in San Antonio, Texas. A bystander returns fire at a man who shot at a woman at a San Antonio abortion clinic. The San Antonio police are searching for a man who fired a gun at a woman outside an abortion clinic on Saturday morning. San Antonio Police Department spokesman named Christopher Ramos said, crediting an armed bystander who returned the fire, that no one was injured. An armed bystander happened to be there actually protesting and saw this take place, so he returned fire. The shooting happened Saturday around 8:30 in the morning in the 7400 block of John Smith Drive, near the intersection of Wasbath and Babcock Roads in the northwest side. A man who arrived with a woman at the facility pulled out a gun and shot at the woman, but missed. A bystander who was with the group of protesters near the clinic saw the shooter and used his handgun to fire at the man. Police said the protester had a license to carry the pistol. Not difficult to do in Houston. Most everybody does. Police spokesman Christopher Ramos said it's still under investigation. You have the right to defend somebody else. The bystander did something a reasonable person would do. He saw someone engaged in a shooting, so he also intervened and stopped the shooting from continuing. This is the kicker here. Ramos added that the shooter ran away from the scene, dropping a firearm, which investigators believe they have found. Officials are investigating the shooting as domestic violence incident and say the clinic was not the target. He said the shooter and the victim knew each other but declined to provide more details to the relationship. Police said investigators determined that the gunman hid in the trunk of the woman's vehicle while she was on her way to the clinic. When the victim parked at the clinic, the shooter got out of the trunk and fired multiple rounds at the woman, who didn't hit her but struck several of the clinic's windows. No injuries were reported. Some bullets hit the health clinic, as I said. The victim was transported to police headquarters. Investigators are canvassing the area in search of the man. He got away. It is unknown if the shooter was hit by gunfire, but as of 11 in the morning, police had checked and didn't find him at any local hospitals. They did not provide details on the identity or description of the suspect. Comments here. This jerk hid in the victim's trunk to get to the clinic. Unbelievable. There's a ton of help available for victims of domestic violence. Call your local public defender's office and they will direct you to available programs and shelters. These relationships never end well. Get help and get away. We're going to have one more short break here and then I'll do my closing. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man. Don Green, 702-409-8239. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. My latest book, Self-Defense with Firearms, Use of Force in Nevada, is now available on Amazon Kindle for $4.95. You can download it now. It contains examples of dozens of shootings and pointing a firearm cases that I personally experienced in my 24 years in law enforcement, or where I testified in court or deposition as a firearm and use of force expert. The book is about the use of firearms in defense of yourself and others in my home state of Nevada. I have appeared as an expert witness in Nevada courts dozens of times, and that experience has shown me the necessity of putting pen to paper once again. Nevada state law as printed can be misleading to those of you who read it, as it is written in legal jargon, what I usually call lawyer speak. These statutes are also bent or even broken by the courts in their everyday decisions that we generally call case law. Those are rulings that say this or that statute does not apply in a particular incident and similar cases. That causes the law you are depending on when you make a decision to use your firearm only partially or not apply at all to your actions. Relevant Nevada statute numbers are included here and there, so readers may look up current wording on the Nevada State website. Teaching firearms in 28 law enforcement academies, including cadets from 26 different Nevada agencies, personally instructing over 30,000 concealed firearm permit students and 20,000 private security officers, I've discovered a lot of commonalities in deadly force incidents. Less than 100 pages, this book offers advice that can save lives and costs of expensive defense lawyers to reduce your losses in the inevitable civil lawsuits that follow these incidents. Get a copy, learn how to avoid, prepare for, and react to life-threatening situations. That is it for this week's show. I'll be off next week, so we're going to run a best of Fired Up show, a collection of some of our shows you may have missed. We're going through and picking out ones that are particularly neat, all within the last 2 years or so. And so it'll be a little bumpy looking when they put it together, I'm sure, but I won't be here, and I'm kind of stuck with that. You can check out our disclaimer following right now to better understand how Rigel and I put these shows together. It contains a lot of good information to make you understand what's going on. Like I said, I'll be back next Thursday on my website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, but I'll be recording the American Guns and Glory Network and numerous other websites, television, and radio stations. Please, when watching any media, click on subscribe so the new shows will be sent to your phone or computer automatically each week. You can check out my recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains several dozen episodes, and you'll find my logo merchandise, mostly books and hats and things, available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus Circus on the Las Vegas Strip. If you are ever in Las Vegas, Battlefield is a must-see attraction. Thank you for watching Fired Up with Bob Irwin. I hope you found it interesting and educational. As I said, hang on for the disclosure, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.